Oh, hi, everybody. Didn't see you there. Welcome back. So, on Friday, something gigantic happened. Usually, the situation would be the following: me sitting right here, you sitting right there. You're watching this video, watching it intensely, focused on Friday. It's Monday. Yeah, so I've been busy, like really busy with something really huge. This really huge thing is 20 pounds, furry, and the most adorable thing that you've ever experienced. Please, allow me to formally introduce you to Rex. Rex is not only the best thing in the world, but also the greatest thing in the world, the cutest thing in the world, the most adorable thing in the world, and actually the smartest thing in the world too. Rex is our brand new Newfoundland puppy, and Rex is very demanding. I think over the past 5 days, maybe I've slept 10 hours. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, look, we could put it this way. Rex requires a lot of attention, a lot of food, a lot of playing. It's absolutely amazing. But I've had so little sleep that at this point, I think I'm hallucinating. I think I've seen multiple versions of a warden. You know, things that look like this, or like this, or like this maybe, or maybe even, most terrifyingly, this. What even is this? Everywhere I look, this thing. It's literally everywhere. I mean, Rex too, but also this. Alright, so let's go on a journey through time. Rewind things back to this past Friday, the Minecraft YouTube channel, one of the greatest Minecraft channels of all time. We have this series that runs on the Minecraft channel every once in a while. It's full of laughs, it's full of this weird, creepy, strange-looking man, and it's full of this beautiful, bodacious-looking robot. A couple of days ago on the official Minecraft YouTube channel, an episode of this series between the narrator and the robot was posted called Secrets of the Warden. Secrets of the Warden is significant for many reasons, including, I think this is the biggest, closest, most in-depth look that we've ever gotten at a single feature that has been developed in Minecraft. Literally one single mob, the Warden. Today's video is essentially all about the Warden, a little bit of the sculk too, but the Warden. So let's cut it back to some of those pictures I was showing you earlier, this thing right here, or maybe even this thing, or maybe even this one. I didn't show you this one. Look at those ears, or antlers. Pretty sure I've seen a mod with a Warden that looks just like that one in the middle. I don't know what those things are, but they're tall. They're definitely tall. The Secrets of the Warden video that was posted on the Minecraft channel is probably 6 minutes in length or something like that, but the information that was packed inside of this thing is information to satisfy us for the rest of the year, all the way through Caves and Cliffs Update Part 3, Caves and Cliffs Update Part 4, maybe even Caves and Cliffs Update Part 5. There's a ton of information here, a lot of stuff about the sculk, and a lot of stuff about the Warden. The one bad thing about this video, at least in my opinion, and I actually watched Izuma's video, the one bad thing about this thing is I feel like they went so quickly through all of the things. These things are really cool here, tons of words. I read at a very steady 3 words per minute. There's no chance that I could ever keep up with any of this stuff that they were talking about. We've got a lot of new information to immerse ourselves in today, so that's exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. As long as you weren't born on Sunday or Saturday or maybe even Friday, then you know by now that the Warden was originally meant to be in the Caves and Cliffs update, but it was delayed. And it's a good thing that it was delayed because that means more time for the development and more times for beautiful names like William. The Warden's name is William, and according to this, it is now official canon. So that's the thing. The Secrets of the Warden was basically an information dump on all of the development that has gone into the Warden so far. Check this out. The Stalker, the Hollowed, 2 original Warden concept names. Those are amazing, and those set the tone, pretty much perfectly. Lately, analog horror is one of my favorite things. I've been so into it, especially the Mandela catalog, but horror in general, just scary things. I love it. I've always loved it. The Stalker, the Hollowed, and then obviously now we have the Warden. Right from the beginning of the development cycle for this thing, creepy was the vibe, it was the tone, was the goal. All of these other things are just memes, they're not relevant at all. Stalker, Hollowed, Warden. Out of the 3 options, I'm actually happiest with the Warden. I'm glad that the devs chose the name Warden. It is really cool. Probably my favorite runner-up would be Hollowed, with Stalker at 3rd, but I love them all. But I mean, after all, names are just names. It's literally just a name. It could be anything in the world. Doesn't change anything about the Warden at all. Names are names. let's go ahead and move on to sculk concepts. In this big information dump on the Warden, we also got a little bit of information on sculk concepts. Based off of what we know about the Warden and what we know about the sculk stuff, it seems like in 1.19, the Warden and the sculk, well, the best way to put it is, essentially the Warden and the sculk are basically going to be besties. If I had to come up with an analogy to the real world, it would basically be like me, Rex, and Felix. So we're a trio of besties. It's great. The only difference here is the Warden and Sculk. It's obviously like only two things. So anyways, we got a lot of Sculk information in this video as well. We've always known it as Sculk, but to the developers, it definitely hasn't always been Sculk. The concepts have seemingly basically always been there, like pretty much the same. This weird thing that spreads throughout the world, and check this out right here. We have a block. We have another block on the ground, and then we have this thing like spreading. So that spreading concept seems to have always been there, but it wasn't always Sculk. So I have to apologize. This is essentially what I imagine like the 1980s were like. You can't see a single thing right here. It's all pixelated and blurry. I have no clue, but it is what it is. This is like the best version of this image that I could find. All the other ones are better, I promise. But skull concept number 1, a rust-like concept that basically moves throughout your world and corrupts it. This blurry, unclear block right here is the equivalent of the sculk catalyst. In this version, we'll call it the rust catalyst. This basically causes the spread of the sculk in the world right here. Now, thinking about this originally being in the Caves and Cliffs update, would have been kind of interesting to see, like a rust sculk. That would have paired kind of nicely with the copper. Of course, copper is oxidizing and rusting, but like, I don't know, you have like two metal themes, right? Like, it's a whole theme. It's kind of a vibe, right? I don't know. But, you know, like rust sculk would have been cool, but I'm definitely glad they didn't go with it because it wouldn't have been creepy at all. And to me, it seems kind of random. Like, it's literally like your world is rusting. Like, am I to believe that the grass block is made out of iron or something and it's rusting? Yeah. Stepping things up a little bit, making it terrifying. Bone sculk. So this wouldn't have matched the game's vibe like at all. Like, look at this concept right here. Maybe some weird bones coming out of the ground. What? Excuse me, King B-Dogs. Bones coming out of the ground? What? Corrupted mesh of twisted and cracked bones. Unearthed bones and fangs. This is absolutely terrifying sounding, but also like really, really cool. Take a look at the spreading, the sculk bone stuff on the ground. It literally like forms like a bone right there in the ground. That would have fit really well with the archaeology stuff, but archaeology, bone skull concept is really cool. I do like it, especially down in the darkness of the caves would have been sweet, but dark sculk, or what I'm calling dark sculk here, is absolutely amazing. This wavy texture on the block right there, I kind of wish that we got this, and like the smoke coming out of it or whatever that is, the essence of life seeping out of this block. It's so creepy. And then look at how it actually like is spreading onto the other ones from like the waves or the stripes, at least in the concept right here. This is a really cool concept. Like, I really like the finalized version of the sculk that we're going to be getting in the update. Obviously, the devs went with that for a reason. But this thing looks sweet. Like, it's pure evil and just really, really cool. Less dark sculk is this next one that I'm calling it. This is kind of a little bit of a more boring one in my opinion. Catalyst can be a pure corruption block, pitch black with purple stripes. Kind of gives me Crying Obsidian vibes. A cool idea, but, you know, like a little bit less to it when compared to something amazing like that. Then we have what I'm calling Void Sculk because I didn't know what else to call it. I also feel like on its own, just a void of darkness, like, I don't know. Maybe not that interesting looking. One note that I did think was really interesting about this one, maybe VFX could be some flies to give a rotten feeling. Really hope the devs take the particle concept and expand it. Like, maybe they revamp biomes, add particles into the biomes in the overworld. Imagine a flower forest biome with, like, particles all over the place, but that's a complete sidetrack. Back on track to trypophobia. I might have this. I might have trypophobia. Like, I mean, look at this stuff right here. How does this not, like, how am I even looking at this myself? It's just uneasy. Like, I'm not trying to be dramatic or anything like that. This makes me really uncomfortable. I don't like looking at it. Trypophobia. Trypophobia sculk actually is a really interesting concept. So if you don't know what trypophobia is, it's basically like a cluster of like circles. Like, imagine that, and it just gives you like this weird, uncomfortable, uneasy feeling. That's essentially what trypophobia is, the concept of that on a sculk block. Like this bit over here, sculk could be a texture disease that creates these hole clusters and corrupts blocks, revealing the dark void of the hollow through their disgusting holes. That's a really interesting concept. Like the block gets eaten away and there's like a void inside of it. Imagining this like having maybe like animation in those holes or something, like a void animation, or I don't know, whatever the texture artist would have come up with. Sure, it would have been great. It's a really cool concept, but yeah, potentially triggering. But wait, there's more. If you don't like holes, they really cause an uncomfortable feeling. Well, don't go to King B-Dog's Twitter, because King B-Dogs is out here just going for it out here. Look at this thing right here. This is the trypophobia concept in game. Now you have to keep in mind that these textures were like experimental textures. There might have been like changes made to these things, but interesting. Very, very different than the current version of the sculk that we have, quite clearly. It's way brighter. I don't know if this would actually end up matching very well in the Deep Dark, or at least what we call the Deep Dark. I kind of wonder if this made it into the game. Would it even be called the Deep Dark? But yeah, the trypophobia block in game, we don't like it. I hate it. I absolutely, thoroughly hate it. I have a burning hate for this, but at the same time, I kind of love it. I kind of love it. I really like that the devs are being open with all the work that has been going into developing these features. Like, they're being transparent and showing these concepts, even with the chance of the community, like, loving this version of the sculk right here and maybe, like, begging for this. Like, even though the stuff is definitely scrapped, it being shown off could definitely trigger a massive wave of 5-year-olds demanding for this stuff to be in the game. But they don't care. They're just showing it off. Now, this version of the sculk stuff right here goes with the stalker. This stuff kind of looks like soul sand. Definitely glad they didn't go with this version, whatever version it was, because it literally just looks like soul sand or soul soil. I mean, there's this different looking blue block in there. I guess that's like a command block or something. I do like this, but it's just not as good as the current one at all, and not even as good as the trypophobia one. But wait, slow down, stalker. What in the world is a stalker? Well, think back to that beginning bit about the warden names. Stalker was the original warden name. The warden originally was not the warden. The warden was the stalker, and the stalker, look at this thing. This video is from King B-Dog's Twitter. This thing looks nothing like the warden at all. It is so creepy looking with that chest of like tentacles right there. Asymmetrical, which is really interesting for Minecraft. Oh yeah, and it's like essentially a chameleon, or not a chameleon, but like a shape-shifting demon that goes into a crawling mode. This would be so it could chase you down a 1x1 tunnel if you try and dig away from this thing. And I'm considering never playing this game again. That is terrifying. The concept is creepy looking, maybe a little goofy looking too, but it's also really cool. The idea that this thing can transform and become way smaller to chase you down like a small tunnel that you made, you can't ever get away from it. This version of the warden that was called the stalker would have been the tallest mob in the game as well, like taller than Enderman. So essentially it's Siren Head that crawls around too. There's a little bit of concept art for the stalker that was in that Secrets of the Warden video. In the Secrets of the Warden video, when they were talking about the other versions of the Warden, they really like zoomed right past all of this stuff. So here we go. We can actually take a look at it and take it in. I mean, this thing is definitely giving me Siren Head vibes for sure, especially with like this part right here. Like, it's not a siren, but it kind of looks like Siren Head. I like this idea too. No face at all. That makes it so ominous looking. Here's an idea for like a triangular face and then a symmetrical one right there. Even though the mob is asymmetrical, like take a look at the head. It's off to the side. You could really see it in the video. Let's talk a little bit about this thing in the middle of the stalker's chest on every concept. So there and there. According to a tweet thread from King B-Dogs, this would have essentially been this floating, glowing totem. Now, in this version of the Deep Dark that has since been scrapped, completely gone, so don't get your hopes up, there would have been these floating totem things in the Deep Dark that would have loot in them. So you would walk over to them. The totem is, I guess, just floating there. I don't know. I can't even really imagine it. But it's like floating there, and there's loot. Well, the stalker would also have this in it, and so it would stand really still. You'd walk over to it thinking, hey, wow, look, there's some loot. And then all of a sudden, this thing like turns and moves and starts attacking you. And then you try and run away, and it goes into that whole crawling thing. And then you quit the game, and you just play Five Nights at Freddy's because it's not actually scary at all. This would have been like really, really creepy. And I really like how, like, in all of these concepts here for the sculk and all of these things, there's a big emphasis on particles and animation here, like flames around the ears and the vibration stuff and everything like that. Like, it's really, really cool. I like that the developers are considering this stuff when designing this mob. So, tall warden, tall king. I mean, the warden is still, I think, going to be very tall, but it could have been, like, even taller than it is now. Specifically, look at this one right here. This is, like, just the wither. I don't know what's going on with this, if this was actually an idea for the warden, but, like, what? I don't know. Maybe it was just on, like, working out a feel for things. This right here is, like, a nether portal thing. If this would have made it into the game, 100%, without a doubt, this thing would have had to have, like, a nether link or something. More, strange wither vibe in the middle, and then this one kind of is, I mean, it's like a flower on top, but it kind of reminds me of, like, a blaze, too. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But this is pure nightmare fuel. Like, that thing with the long arms. This is my sleep paralysis demon that I was seeing for years, essentially. Like, what even is this thing? Like, that is, like, almost maybe potentially too much. Like, that is terrifying. Like, the mouth and everything. That's really creepy. Speaking of Blaze, this concept right here reminds me of that Blaze concept from like 4 or 5 years ago. The mob vote that was canceled, the Phantoms won, you know, and then the other ones were just canceled. That reminds me of the King Blaze or whatever it was called. Kind of interesting. This one is really creepy as well. It's like a wither skeleton floating like a ghost or something. And then this reminds me of some kind of Pokemon or something. I guess this one too. And yeah, I guess all of those. This is just a Pokemon evolution. So the Warden clearly went through a lot of design concepts. The Stalker went through a lot of design concepts too. This right here is where the proper Warden starts to come out, at least to me. Now, moving on to a rotting concept for the Warden. Or at least I call this one Rotting Warden because of this concept right over here. Rotting creature that wears a skull mask that looks like an undead being. Bones are showing where the flesh is rotten. This kind of looks like, I mean, yes, obviously like a skull mask or something, but like a phantom, rotting, and then trypophobia. Oh yeah, that's right, it's back. It seems like this trypophobia concept, just like with the Stalker concept, was like really explored for a while. Here we have a Warden that looks like vaguely similar to the current one, especially with like the head stuff, and then here I guess we have a villager Warden with that nose. I mean, the only nose that can compare is a villager, so. The Warden's stature hasn't always been set, so it seems like when the Warden actually makes it into the game, it's going to have a little bit of a combination going on here. Like, it will be a little bit hunched sometimes from the videos, but more so like straight upright. But a hunched concept was also explored, and again with the whole trypophobia thing, this kind of looks like some kind of like teddy bear essentially without any eyes on the thing. Like the eyes would go right there, right? Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then this thing right here, this is straight up like an SCP or something. It's like a stitched in mouth or something. Like, what is that SCP? SCP statue. It's SCP-173. This thing right here, all of the trypophobia wardens honestly just look like this SCP. Like, maybe that's why they didn't go with it. The color scheme kind of matches it too much or something like that. I mean, fine, call me an SCP normie, whatever. It won't affect me that much. But this SCP is one of my favorite ones. Like, the story behind it, it's just creepy. How it all works, really, really creepy too. I like this one. Seeing something in Minecraft that would have vaguely looked like it would have been kind of cool. This right here is where the Warden starts to look a whole lot more like the current Warden, the actual one that we're going to get. It's a little bit shorter looking, I guess you would call it, like more like solid. I don't know. It looks a lot more like the normal Warden now, but this concept right here, pig. This one is really interesting too with the orange in the ear right there, very subtle and different. And then trypophobia, again, an SCP right there, SCP, 100%, this is the SCP, that's the SCP. If you like that one, look at this right here. So that Minecraft video actually had a little bit of footage of this thing actually being in the game. Imagine a reality where that thing would have made it in. And of course, in that reality where this thing makes it in, I would assume that the Deep Dark is completely different, matching the color palette of this Warden right here. So you get a little bit of that blue, but it would have been just completely different. But also, like, kind of amazing. This thing is really, really creepy looking with a sideways mouth and everything, and then the holes into it. And look at this part right here. When it's going slow, you can really see, but the texture on him is literally the void. Like, the hands right there, the holes inside of it, and its mouth, it's, like, essentially the void texture. I love the idea of this thing having literal holes on it, or, like, decaying completely in some cases, like, on its hands, and you could just see the void. Like, it's so creepy. looking through a lot of the concept art that was shown off in that video, it seems like the trypophobia version of the Warden, or like this one in specific with a mouth going the wrong way, was like really fleshed out, but it's gone. Fortunately, or unfortunately. Out of all of those Warden concepts, plus the actual real Warden, I still actually think the real proper Warden that we know about is my favorite one, though. I feel like it just fits into the whole concept of the Deep Dark, blends into the darkness. The sculk that's paired with it looks really cool and kind of like a nighttime sky and just different and strange. It's like its whole own proper thing. My runner-up, or favorite, if you want to say favorite out of just the concepts, though, like ignoring the proper finalized one, is definitely that final one that we were just looking at with the sideways mouth that looks like the SCP. Would have been so cool. Even the trypophobia sculk blocks too. And also, if you think you're funny and you send me any trypophobia pictures on Twitter, I'm going to block you. So I want to actually end today's video with this thread from King B-Dogs over on Twitter. It's just a small thread. I'm just going to scroll through it here. It's talking about the development of features that make it into the game and how there's a lot of work that goes into actually, developing the features. Like the Warden, there have been so many different versions of the Warden, so many different concepts, like the Stalker and everything. It's an interesting thread, and it's just something to keep in mind that polishing things and making them like really fit into the game, it takes time. I actually completely forgot about the Stalker concept too. That's my number 3. Number 1 is the proper Warden that's making it into the game. Number 2 is trypophobia SCP-173 Warden. Number 3, like the third place one, Stalker asymmetrical Warden. That would have been really cool to see too. What is your favorite concept of the Warden from that video? If you didn't see that video, I'm going to go ahead and link it down in the description right now, or in like 3 more seconds, or 20 seconds. Give me 20 seconds. Go check that video out. It's really interesting, and it's pretty short too. I'd like to send a big thank you to Patron Gang Today Cypher 1158 with Justin and Jacob P and Noodle Pork. Thank you so much for the support. Tap the like button that's right down below the video. It helps out and I appreciate it huge time. Subscribe. It will help you out. More videos all the time. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.